What up? Welcome to another episode of Garments and Tycoons, the show where fashion meets business. I'm your host, Stefan Adams. So, on the last episode, we went through the legendary career of Tom Ford, who happens to be my favorite fashion designer outside of myself, of course. But on this episode, I want us to go inward and I want to put the spotlight on my brand, Steffon Eugene. I like to take you through the beginning, the inspiration that led to the brand, the groundwork of putting the brand together, where we are today, as well as my vision for the future. So let's get started. I want to start by sharing that as a kid, I wasn't ever really into sports like that. Music and fashion always had my heart. I'd even go as far as to say that music was probably more of my first love because I remember there was a time I used to tell my people that I wanted to be a music producer. But as time went on, clearly fashion had a stronger hold on me. So I used to watch like lots of music videos and movies. And through the music videos and movies that I watched, I guess you could say my love for fashion fostered and really grew stronger. And through that, I, even at an early age, was able to identify the sort of aesthetic that I was into and that captivated me. Nowadays, I call it drug dealer chic. Like that's the aesthetic, right? But back then, I didn't have the language to call it that. I just knew what I liked. For example, one of my favorite movies as a child was Casino, and I used to love Robert De Niro's wardrobe in that movie. Later, in later years, I learned that Giorgio Armani actually did the costume designing for Robert De Niro's character, which is dope. But yeah, it was always that sort of aesthetic that I was super into. And so, fast forward to my sophomore year of high school, that's when I pinpointed that I was going to have a career in the fashion industry, specifically as a fashion designer, owning my own brand. And so, funny story as we move into the creation of Stefan Eugene. A funny story is that I used to hate my name growing up. I hated my first name, Stefan, largely due to the association with Family Matters and the Steve Urkel character. Man, I used to hate that. I used to hate my middle name, Eugene, as a kid. One, just simply because at that time, man, that sounded like an old man name to me. So, like in class, as much as possible, I used to try to lie and say that I didn't have a middle name or hide the fact that Eugene was my middle name. And then the second reason why I disliked my middle name so much was because of I used to watch Hey Arnold, and there was a character on there named Eugene. He used to be real clumsy. It was just like a bad representation of the name. And so, yeah. But as I began to study fashion and brands and designers, I picked up on a theme. A lot of the most legendary brands were named after the creators. So think Chanel, Tom Ford, Ralph Lauren, Giorgio Armani, Brunello Cucinelli. The list could really go on. But I can honestly say through studying fashion and coming to that revelation, that helped me to fall in love with my own name. And so, through again identifying that I was going to be a designer and have my own brand, I always said that the name was going to be Stefan Eugene. And so um, we go into my junior year, right? My mom put me on game to who Tom Ford is. And I start looking, paying more attention to his brand. And I just fell in love with the aesthetic of his brand. And I always said to at that time, I said to myself, if I was able to create my own brand, it would sort of follow this blueprint, but with my own different point of view, of course, because nobody's trying to copy. But that was the that clean, um, tailored, luxurious aesthetic. Like I was just super, super always into it. Like that's what I associate with drug dealer chic. And so initially when I created Stefan Eugene, I wanted to start in the formal wear, either with suits or with neckties, because I had also learned that Ralph Lauren started off as a necktie company. But fast forward to 2014 era, I just graduated from college. And I had went ahead and I created the DBA for my business. Um, as I'm doing this, something else popped up to me. It's like, yo, even more than your love for formal wear, you love socks a lot. I picked up on that. And then I noticed that I thought to myself, like, yo, if we're all in a work setting and we have to wear suits and sort of, the whole uniform look, when we sit down and we give a glimpse of our socks, the socks is what's going to give a glimpse of each of our unique personalities. And so right then and there, I said, okay, I'm going to put my creativity into the sock category, because that category represented and still represents individuality to me and creative self expression. So I locked in on that. And even furthermore, back then and even still to this day, I'm the type of person that likes to wear sneakers and dress shoes. And back then, I felt like I couldn't find fly, eye catching socks that went well with both and could be worn comfortably with both sneakers and dress shoes. So I locked in on that being my selling point and my niche. And then I got started with, exploring, okay, how can I make samples and actually get some product made? So, as we transition into this topic, I want to start by giving a major, major shout out to my guy, OJ Glover. OJ is like a mentor to me, and this man put me on game to trade shows. Prior to him, I sort of had an idea of what trade shows were, but I was still confused and I didn't even know where to start and how to go about finding them. But he put me on game to like what magic was and other online platforms that serve as like an online trade show, if you will. And so he put me on game to that, and I immediately got started. I started requesting samples from from factories that I was finding, and I would communicate with them the type of socks that I wanted made. I wanted something that could be worn comfortably with sneakers and dress shoes. And the sampling process took about 3 to 6 months before I finally could find or landed on a factory that I felt could execute my vision. So then, I had like 4 design ideas sketched out, and I sent them to the factory and requested samples of those specific designs again. And, once I approved the samples, full production got started. And the full production, man, that first run took like 6 months. And, I went through the whole waiting game process with that. Um, Something I want to share that was a learning curve for me is like with that first order, my first collection of socks was four different designs. The names, because I name all my socks. The names were Solid One and Solid Two, Pattern One and Pattern Two. And the theme in the collection was light blue, dark blue, and black and gold. Two socks were patterned, and then the other were just like solid colors with different solid colors within them. And I had to commit with that first factory that I worked with. I had to commit to 300 units of each sock that I made. So that's a lot of socks for a brand new somebody like myself back then. Like I didn't have a customer base or any potential customers for real. I was just starting. So I had to do that. And then altogether, I think that collection cost me to pay the factory. Excuse me. I think that cost me like 2,300. And then another part of the learning curve that I had was I didn't know that I was gonna have to pay customs, like pay a broker to get my product through U.S. Customs. I thought the product was just gonna come straight to my delivery address, but nah, that wasn't the case. That was a last minute surprise. I had to scramble and get money together for that. That cost me about $700, and it was just unexpected. So, yeah, the first order put me through the ringer, but man, I don't regret it. Um, because now, fast forward to where I'm at today with my negotiations with my factories. Like I have a Rolodex of factories that I can go through and work with. And now I can negotiate as low as 100 units per design. I probably can go lower than that if I wanted to while still maintaining a fair cost per unit. And, today I'm also at a point where I'm consulting other people and other companies, helping them to develop socks for their brands or whatever their use case may be. Um, Man, now I'm just real locked in on the sock category and I really enjoy it. Um, Last year, though, I stepped into the knitwear lane and started making knitwear tops. So this one that I'm wearing right now, this is Stefan Eugene. And as you can see, the logo is two socks forming the letter H. And that's important to mention because through this, we commemorate being a Houston-based sock brand. Um, in addition to this design, there's a long sleeve version where this logo is extending to the sleeve. It's done in a very unique way. Um, so this one, the long sleeve version, we did two Christmas designs this past holiday season. Those went pretty well. Um, and there's another design that I'm working on. I just requested a sample from my factory. Still waiting to receive it. Once I receive it, I'm gonna do a video on it, and show people how it look when I'm wearing it and everything like that. It may or may not go into full production. We'll see. But yeah, Stefan Eugene today is a lifestyle brand that specializes in quality unisex socks as well as knitwear tops. Um, and as far as the vision, overall vision in the future, um, my elevator pitch is Ralph Lauren started with neckties. Stefan Eugene starts with socks. And with that, I feel like that gives the overall picture view of, You think about Ralph Lauren, where that brand is today, right? A multi-billion-dollar company. And then you think about how it started with the humble beginning of starting with neckties. Um, I can see and envision Stefan Eugene in that same way. And in no way, by no means, trying to mirror or copy anything that Ralph Lauren has done because, I'm my own man and I have my own unique vision that I want to share and express. But it just sort of give you that some sort of reference as to make clear that I do foresee Stefan Eugene offering more than socks. But I plan for socks to always be at the forefront of the brand. Um and then everything else is just sort of build around socks. Like even with this top, I feel like this was done in a very unique and creative way because I really do love socks. I enjoy being in the sock industry and learning more about it every day. Um, I also envision myself, running a small conglomerate, you know, and Stefan Eugene being the parent company of other companies, or we'll figure it out. But I have a vision of just specializing in different categories and doing it in different ways. I don't want to give too much detail. I'd rather just execute it in real time. But, just to give a brief summary of the overall vision for the brand. But yeah, that is Stefan Eugene in a nutshell. Of course, we have more than just the four socks that we started with. We have many different designs. I could probably do an episode on each different design. I may do that. And talk about like the inspiration behind each one. Yeah, I think that'll be dope to do. But yeah, socks and knitwear, and with the goal of stepping into other categories gradually as we continue to move on. But man, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. Just please stay tapped in with us. We on YouTube, Stefan, Eugene, everything together. And yeah, I love to hear your thoughts. But on the next episode, we're going to dive into the importance of trade shows. We'll talk about just like a quick introduction and yeah, a quick introduction to them and the role that they play in the fashion industry, especially for growing brands like Stefan Eugene. And yeah, but that's it for this episode. And before we head out, may all your pain be champagne.